During a school trip, Peter Parker is summoned on a mission and has to fight alone against the forces of nature intent on destroying the Earth. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Spider-Man: Far From Home, from 2019. During an expedition in Mexico, Nick Fury and Maria Hill investigate a disaster that has occurred in the city of Extenco, where a battle is taking place between Mysterio and an elemental. Meanwhile, Peter Parker continues to live his quiet life in New York and is preparing for a 2-week trip to Europe with the rest of his class. During the school trip, the young man intends to implement a plan to win over Michelle James, better known as MJ, his classmate. While the young man is packing, his Aunt May tries to persuade him to take his Spider-Man uniform with him to wear in case of an emergency, but Peter decides not to, as he intends to take a vacation from his work as a superhero while he is abroad. After several hours of flying, Peter, Ned and the other students arrive at their first destination. When he goes through immigration, Peter has to open his suitcase for inspection and finds his Spider-Man costume along with a note left by May. Luckily, the inspector doesn't even suspect that the young man might be a superhero, and Peter continues his journey without arousing suspicion. The group has just arrived in Venice and has the help of a boat to take them to their hotel. After packing up, Mr. Harrington takes his students for a walk around the city and Peter buys a necklace to give to MJ as a present. The young man is walking peacefully through the streets of Venice when he notices a strange movement in the water and suddenly a giant monster appears from the lake. At the sight of the creature, all the people around immediately run away, but many don't manage to escape in time. When he realizes that the water monster is approaching a bridge full of people, Peter decides to take action and helps evacuate the area, but ends up being attacked. Just then, another superhero appears and uses his superpowers to try to stop the attack. Seeing the wizard in the helmet who resembles Doctor Strange, Peter decides to join him and offers to help him stop the villain. His goal is to get that monster away from the canal, so that the townspeople are out of danger. During the battle, the giant ends up knocking down a church tower and Peter uses his webbing to hold it up. However, all he manages to do is slow down the fall, as the tower is too heavy. Meanwhile, Mysterio gives the water monster a beating and uses his wizard powers to eliminate the creature. From that day on, the superhero became known in the city and received applause from the locals before leaving. That night, on his way back to the hotel, Peter receives a visit from Fury and the agent informs him that, a week ago, a village in Mexico was wiped out by a hurricane. Witnesses say that the cyclone had a face and 3 days later, a similar event took place in Morocco. Fury therefore suspects that some superior intelligence is behind these disasters. While sailing around Venice, he hands Peter a pair of glasses and reveals that the object was left to him by Tony Stark, who recently perished. That night, Fury takes the young man to his hideout, where Maria Hill and Beck, the real name of the superhero who saved Italy hours ago, are. The man claims to belong to a parallel reality on Earth and explains that the elementals, who have been attacking different countries in recent days, were born inside black holes and were formed by the 4 primary elements: air, water, earth and fire. According to Mysterio, these same creatures attacked his world years ago and, with each battle, they grew stronger. Thanks to Beck, 3 of these monsters have been destroyed in the last week and only one remains to be fought. The superhero tells them that the fire elemental is the strongest of them all and was responsible for destroying his planet. Satellites indicate that this monster will appear in the city of Prague in approximately 48 hours and the group's mission is to eliminate it. To do this, Fury asks Peter to help him, but the young man refuses to accompany them and instead decides to continue the journey with his gang. However, the next morning, instead of taking the class to Paris, as planned in the itinerary, Mr. Harrington reveals that the travel agency has changed the route to Prague, where the students will spend the next 2 days. Immediately, Peter realizes that Agent Fury was responsible for this change, but he has no choice but to get on the tour bus with his colleagues. During the trip, the young man decides to try out the glasses he got from his late mentor, and Edith, an augmented reality defense and security system created by Tony Stark, presents itself. At this point, Edith reveals that she has control of the entire global security network created by Stark Industries, including defense satellites and access to all the major telecommunications networks. After a few hours on the road, the group of students makes a bathroom stop and Peter meets an agent who works with Nick Fury. To prevent Spider-Man from being seen in Europe, the woman gives Peter a new uniform and the young man returns to the bus with his colleagues. That night, he meets with the rest of the team and says that he will stay in the cathedral tower waiting for the elemental to arrive. Then, when the fire monster appears, Peter will inform Mysterio and the two will team up to destroy the enemy. Peter's biggest worry is that his friends are in danger because of him. After all, if it weren't for him, his gang would be in Paris, far away from the attack that will soon take place. In an attempt to reassure the young man, Mysterio says that all Peter needs to do is convince his colleagues to stay indoors for a few hours and assures them that they'll be fine. With Edith's help, Peter gets some tickets for an opera concert and in this way manages to ensure that his gang is protected in a safe place during the battle. Before Spider-Man leaves for his mission, MJ invites him to sit next to her and Peter is tempted to abandon the battle to spend time with the girl. Once again, however, his plans are interrupted by Fury who, through a communicator, says that he will be waiting for the young man at the agreed location. Seeing Peter sneaking out of the building, MJ decides to go after him and is followed by her friend Betty. Knowing about the battle that will take place over the next few hours, Ned decides to follow the girls to ensure their safety. Coincidentally, there's a huge party going on in the city on this day and the streets are jammed with people. Suddenly, the fire elemental appears and starts destroying the city while Betty and Ned are trapped at the top of a Ferris wheel. Seeing the monster at work, Mysterio and Spider-Man team up to try to stop it, but the creature is capable of absorbing all kinds of material, so no attack is strong enough to defeat it. With a single blow, the elemental causes a crack in the ground and the Ferris wheel begins to topple. Immediately, Peter goes to the aid of his classmates and Beck claims to have a plan to stop the enemy. After saying goodbye to the young man, Mysterio gathers a large amount of energy and pierces the elemental's body, agreeing to sacrifice himself to destroy it. Luckily, Beck manages to survive the explosion and Fury invites him to join him as a member of Europol's headquarters in Berlin. That evening, after the great success of his mission, Beck invites Peter to dinner at a restaurant and the two of them talk about the technological glasses that the young man got from his mentor. Determined to get on with his life as a normal young man, without the responsibility of having to save the world at any moment, Peter decides to hand over control of Edith to Beck, as he believes the superhero will make better use of the technology. After getting rid of the pressure to become the next Tony Stark, the young man feels relieved and says goodbye to Beck to go and find MJ. Then, when the young man leaves, Beck deactivates the holographic system he has implanted in the restaurant and celebrates the fact that his whole plan has turned out as he had hoped. The truth is that Beck and the team of scientists who work for him are former employees of Tony Stark and the only thing all those people have in common is that they hate their boss, each of them for a specific reason. The group of supervillains pooled their knowledge to fool Fury and pretend that the elemental attacks were happening in random places on the planet, when in reality they were all orchestrated by Beck. The man has managed to fool everyone by pretending to have superpowers when, in fact, all he has are drones and high-tech equipment that produce perfect holograms, making him capable of fooling billions of people with illusionism alone. When Peter returns to the hotel and finds Ned, he learns that the school trip has come to an end. After the 2 consecutive attacks that the students suffered, their parents contacted Mr. Harrington and asked for the immediate return of the teenagers to the United States. Knowing that this is his last chance to meet MJ in Europe, Peter decides to ask her out on a date and, during the walk, he discovers that his Spider-Man identity has been discovered. MJ has had her eye on Peter for some time and reveals that she saw him fight the fire elemental that night. At that moment, the young woman shows the device she found at the scene of the battle and suddenly the image projector is activated. After analyzing the machine, Peter soon comes to the conclusion that the elementals were fake and discovers that Mysterio was really responsible for causing all that destruction. When he realizes the mistake he made in passing Tony Stark's glasses onto a supervillain, Peter decides to confess that he is in fact Spider-Man and returns to the hotel with MJ. Meanwhile, Beck is at his headquarters rehearsing the choreography for his next drone attack. This time, however, the man plans to eliminate an even greater number of victims, because he knows that the greater the disaster, the more his name will be acclaimed when he defeats the creatures that caused this catastrophe. At this point, Beck realizes that there is something wrong with his suit and William reveals that the projector of one of his drones was lost during the battle. In an attempt to find the evidence that could ruin his entire plan, the man accesses the drone footage and discovers that the projector was found by MJ. Thanks to her, Peter Parker now knows that he has been tricked and Beck comes to the conclusion that he will have to eliminate him to ensure that his secret is not discovered. Without even imagining that he has become Mysterio's target, Peter plans to go to Berlin to reveal the truth to Fury, as he suspects that Beck has tapped his cell phone. While the young man is putting on his superhero costume, Ned appears and tries to throw MJ off, but the girl reveals that she has discovered that Peter is Spider-Man. After telling his friend that Mysterio is a fake who created the elementals through holographic projectors, Peter asks Ned to call his Aunt May and ask her to contact Professor Harrington to let him know that the young man will be visiting his family in Berlin. The next morning, Peter finally arrives in Germany and is met by Fury, who takes him to his office. When he gets there, the young man explains in detail everything he discovered the night before and soon realizes that he has been caught in a trap. The place where Peter was taken is also just an illusion created by Beck, who reveals that he is disappointed to have been betrayed by the young man, as he believed that Spider-Man was his friend. When he sees Mysterio's holograms approaching, Peter tries to attack him, but Beck manages to disorient his opponent and Spider-Man takes quite a beating until he ends up falling off the building. At this point, he manages to return to reality, but is soon pursued by the drones and once again becomes the target of Mysterio's attacks, who uses Peter's worst fears and pains to haunt him. Unable to distinguish between what is true and what has been created by the illusionist, Spider-Man is unable to defend himself, and the best he can do to try and get out of the trap alive is to dodge any attack that is heading his way. His nightmare only comes to an end when Fury appears with his team and shoots Beck. The agent then walks up to the young man and asks who knows the truth about Mysterio. After getting his answer, Beck reveals himself and Peter realizes that he has been tricked once again. Because of him, his friends have become the villain's new targets and are in danger of being eliminated at any moment. Now that he has all the information he needs, the man manages to get rid of Spider-Man and has the hero run over by a train. What he doesn't realize is that the young man managed to survive and blacked out as soon as he got on the train. When he wakes up, Peter discovers that he has been taken to a Dutch municipal containment unit. Frightened, he gets up and breaks the lock to get out of his cell. Minutes later, he meets a local resident and borrows a phone to contact Happy, who accesses the young man's location and sends a jet to pick him up. Relieved to see a friendly face after all he's been through, Peter tries to think of a way to make amends for his mistakes, but despairs when he realizes that his friends are in danger because of him. Realizing that the young man is completely shaken, Happy tries to reassure him and says that he will help Peter put things right. After checking the social networks of one of his classmates, Peter discovers that they are in London and asks Happy to take him there while he assembles a new Spider-Man costume with the technological equipment that Chip has. Meanwhile, Maria Hill reveals that she has just detected a large electromagnetic pulse coming from London, and Fury asks for Mysterio's help to investigate what could be emitting that signal. Now that he is in control of Edith, Beck has an unlimited supply of drones and requests a large number of them to create a monstrous storm that covers a large part of the city. The villain's plan includes getting rid of Peter's friends during the attack, but Mr. Harrington manages to guide the students off the bus before the vehicle is struck by lightning. While much of the city is destroyed, a mist monster appears on the bridge and Mysterio's hologram approaches to confront it. Knowing that the aberration is just a projected image, Peter hitches a ride on Happy's jet and flies over the creature. That way, his image isn't captured by the cameras. While talking to Beck through a communication device, Fury realizes that he is being tricked and prepares to interfere in the battle. However, when he sees Peter approaching the monster, the agent feels more confident, as he believes that the young man is capable of defeating it. Falling inside the monster's body, Spider-Man finds the drones that are forming the image of the creature that, according to Beck, was created from the fusion of all the elementals. After uniting all those machines through his web, Peter uses an electric shock to short-circuit the projectors and the illusion begins to unravel. The young man then goes after his target, but is shot down by one of the drones, and Beck orders Edith to send all the drones to eliminate Spider-Man. At that moment, Happy lands his ship in the middle of the city and sets off to find Ned and MJ, because he needs to get them away from Mysterio. But when he finds them, the man sees his jet destroyed in an explosion and has to change his plans. After sending a legion of drones to eliminate Spider-Man, Beck goes after the teenagers who are with Happy and chases them until they reach a museum. Through a camera built into the drone, the man can follow his target's every move, and the group needs a plan to distract him. At that moment, Betty drops a suit of armor to get the machine's attention, and then MJ attacks it with a medieval weapon. While the drone shoots wildly all over the place, the group runs to the vault and hides there, as the walls are extremely thick and able to protect them from any attack. However, this strategy isn't enough for Beck to give up on eliminating his victims, and, while one of his drones tries to destroy the vault door, the villain continues his hunt for Spider-Man. Surprisingly, Peter manages to dodge all the attacks, even though he is the target of countless drones, and isn't hit by a single shot. However, when he reaches the bridge, the superhero is surprised by bursts of sound that push him and all the vehicles nearby into the lake. After getting out of the water, Peter goes after a shield, which he uses to protect himself from the gunfire, while throwing a bomb to destroy the drones. His main goal is to capture Beck, because he knows that only then will he be able to stop the attacks and prevent more people from being hurt. However, when he is found by Spider-Man, the villain orders Edith to attack him, and Peter has to fight him to get his glasses back. Once again, the young man is trapped inside an illusion created by Mysterio and relies on the help of his spider sense to cross the corridor formed by the drones without being hit. After destroying a percentage of the drones, he manages to interrupt the scenario created by the holograms, and Beck ends up being accidentally hit by one of their weapons. In his last moments, the man repents of all the evil he has caused and returns the glasses to Peter. However, this scene is also just an illusion, because his true self would never give in so easily. Since he's injured, this was his last attempt to turn the game in his favor, but when Peter takes Edith back, Mysterio realizes he has no chance. After putting on the glasses, Peter sends all the drones back into space and, before he can be confronted, Beck perishes from a gunshot wound. When he realizes that the drones have been deactivated, Happy opens the vault door and MJ runs through the streets looking for Spider-Man. After finding him, the girl hugs him and Peter is relieved to know that all his colleagues are alive. Just then, MJ reveals that Happy has given her a necklace and Peter is frustrated that he didn't get the chance to deliver it in person. Thrilled, the girl decides to kiss him and reveals that she had her eye on Peter long before she suspected he might be Spider-Man. After revealing her feelings to her classmate, the girl goes to find the rest of the class and Peter goes the other way. The next day, he and MJ start dating and return hand in hand to the United States. When she meets her nephew again, May is extremely happy to hear that he is well and takes Peter back home. When he gets there, the young man discovers that Happy and his aunt are dating and sets off across the city in his Spider-Man costume to find MJ. In the end, things turned out much better than he could have imagined before the trip, because as well as saving the planet once again, Peter is now dating the girl of his dreams. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.